Hey everybody, hope you're having a fantastic day. As I'm talking to you here, I'm going to share this on my page if I can here. We are talking about rip currents today, and if you are a beach lover like I am, if you're an adult, you need to hear this lesson. If you're a kid, you need to hear this lesson because this is something that could really impact everybody. Even the best of swimmers can get caught in a rip current, and it can be very, very dangerous. So as we do this, I'm trying to multitask here. I may be able to do it. I may not. Bear with me here because I'm trying to just share this as we go. Share. I'm just going to write post. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. Watch today's World of Weather on rip currents. This is what you call multitasking. And I spelled it wrong, of course. Fix it. Currents. Okay, posted. There we go. Now we can start our lesson. Now, does anybody know what a rip current is? Or have you ever been stuck in a rip current when you're out in the ocean? I think we've all felt the pull. You've at least felt that when you're in the ocean, sometimes you're right in front of your mom and dad, or you're right in front of your stuff or your umbrella, and you kind of get distracted, and then you look on shore and you can't find your stuff anymore because you realize you've moved along the beach. Rip current's very similar. It has to do with a powerful, narrow channel of fast-moving water. And the problem is these rip currents can be very dangerous because you can actually get caught inside the rip current and it can pull you out in the ocean. And a lot of people don't know how to safely get out of a rip current. So we're going to talk about what to do if you get stuck in a rip current. We're going to talk about what a rip current is and what you should do if for some reason you do get stuck in it. I'm also going to give you some keys onto what to look for. You can actually, with your eyes, see a rip current when you look out in the ocean. So this will be a good lesson, especially for moms and dads. You can look for what you're looking for, what kind of things contribute to the rip currents, and what it looks like with your eyes. We have some pictures of that. So today's World of Weather is on rip currents. As always, I have you right here. So if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. So we are going to start today's lesson. I am going to flip this camera around. And today's lesson, again, is on rip currents. Let me scoot you back here so you can see it. I have my phone plugged in because I'm losing battery power. So there we go. World of Weather. Today's is on rip currents. Now, we've talked about what tides are. High tide and low tide. They happen roughly... you see 2 high tides and 2 low tides in a 24-hour period, and it has to do with the gravitational pull of the moon. If you missed my lesson on high tides, make sure you go back and watch it. It's really interesting. Basically, the gravity, the pull of the moon is what causes the high tide. And then on the opposite side of the globe is also high tide, and that's because the lack of gravity. Then low tide, as you can see, is on those areas that are diagonal from the moon. So not right in front of the moon and not right behind the moon, but those areas on the edge of the globe there, that is when we see low tide. It does happen at different times during the day. And again, it is because of the gravitational pull of the moon. That is a very quick lesson on the tide. But go back and watch my lesson, my World of Weather. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. If you go to our website, cbs46.com, click on the World of Weather, or on our streaming app, you can find that lesson. So there is a tidal range. The tidal range is basically the difference in height between the low tide and the high tide. And again, that tide is because the gravitational pull of the moon. Now, rip currents is what we're talking about today. And rip current can be very dangerous. It does happen in the ocean. Again, we talked about it's a powerful, narrow channel of fast-moving water. Usually moves about 1 to 2 feet per second, but it can move as fast as 8 feet per second, which is faster than even an Olympic swimmer. So if you get caught in a very strong rip current, it can be very, very dangerous, even for the best of swimmers. So don't think if you're a good swimmer that you will not be affected. Even the strongest of swimmers can be pulled out in the ocean from a rip current. Now, rip currents happen when the waves travel from deep water to shallow water, and you're going to see it here in an image exactly how it happens. So when the waves travel from deep to shallow water, they break at the shore and they generate currents. You felt it. You know the waves coming in when you're on the beach and you see those waves coming in. Well, they break at the shore and they generate these currents. Now, a rip current forms when these narrow, fast-moving sections of water travel offshore. So, again, you have the waves coming in. Those waves break as they move towards the shallow end of the beach, and you get these little channels of water. and they become very fast moving channels of water, and that travels offshore. So it travels not parallel to the beach, but perpendicular to the beach. So it's actually pulling that water away. And again, it can be very, very fast, as much as 8 feet per second. And it could sweep even the strongest swimmer out to sea. So if you're in the beach, let's say you're right here, the waves are coming in, you're fine from the rip current. But if you happen to get in this channel right here where the rip current is happening, it can suck you back out into the ocean. It's a very powerful current. And even if you're swimming towards the beach, so if it's pulling you and you're trying to swim forward, you have this constant energy pulling you further and further back. Now, something to keep in mind, those rip currents stay close to shore and they usually dissipate beyond the line of breaking waves. So normally the rip current is from where the waves begin to the shore. This is where the rip current occurs. Once you get past where those waves form, that rip current does really weaken significantly. So there are two things you want to do if you get caught in a rip current, because again, even the strongest swimmer can be affected. You want to swim parallel to the shore. So let's say you're standing right here where the P is, and all of a sudden you start getting swept back. You don't want to start swimming forward because you're swimming forward, but the rip current is pulling you back. So it's a never-ending cycle, and you're just going to get super, super tired swimming. So if you get caught in a rip current, you actually want to swim along the shore. So you either want to swim this way or this way. You can pick either west or east along the shore, but you want to keep swimming until you get out of the rip current. And that actually is not very far. Usually a rip current is no more than 80 feet wide or 25 meters wide. So you start swimming and eventually you'll be out of that rip current, and then you can swim on shore safely. Now, another thing you can do is you can actually let the rip current take you. Now, again, if it's a very strong rip current, you don't want to necessarily do that because it can take you fairly far out into the ocean, but you're going to save your energy. Just float, make sure you can breathe, stay above the water, don't waste your energy, just let the rip current take you if you cannot swim parallel to the beach. Again, the rip current happens where the waves begin. So once it takes you past where those waves begin, the rip current will weaken, then you can swim parallel to the shore and make it inward. So both things are good things to do. The important thing to do is not to panic and not to waste your energy. Make sure you stay above the water and stay safe. If you have mom and dad nearby, if you have friends nearby, make sure you let them know. Again, make sure you're breathing, you stay above the water, let them know you're in a rip current. And again, a rip current is only about 80 feet wide, so it's not along the entire beach. You just want to swim parallel to the beach until you get out of that rip current, and then you want to get to shore. So again, this is what to do if you're in a rip current. Don't fight the current. Don't try to swim towards the shore inside the rip current. It's very, very tiring. You're going to get exhausted, and the rip current is not going to let up. So it's not going to stop anytime soon. That's why you want to swim parallel to the shore to get away from the rip current, and then you can swim on shore. If you can't escape, that was the other option. You want to float or tread water. It is going to suck you out into the ocean a little further, but eventually the rip current is going to lose its grip. Again, you can swim parallel and then swim on shore. You do want to ask for assistance. You want to wave your hands up in the air, get someone's attention, let them know you are in a rip current. Now, we talked about what does a rip current look like, and we talked about what it is. This is what a rip current looks like. Now, keep in mind, rip currents form in low spots or where there's a break in the sandbar. So a sandbar is where it's a little more shallow. When there's a break in that sandbar or low spots, that's where the rip currents tend to form. They can also form near structures, near jetties and piers. So when there's a channel for the water to travel to from, that is normally where you get rip currents. So this is what it looks like. Again, we talked about they're normally not very wide, about 80 feet wide. Again, this is where the waves break. So once the waves break, that's where the rip current starts. And you can see it, it's right here in the middle. That's the rip current. But this is where the waves break. If you're in this part, you're fine. So if you're swimming, if you're playing with your family, let's say you don't realize there's a rip current and you end up playing in this area, all of a sudden, that water's coming in and it's getting sucked right back out in this channel. So it's a channel of fast moving water moving away from the beach. So if you get caught in this area, you're going to be sucked back out to the beach. If you get stuck, just swim parallel to the shore. You can see it's not very wide. Swim parallel to the shore in either direction to get out of the rip current, and then you can come safely onto the beach. So again, these rip currents happen where there's breaks, low spots or breaks in sandbars, and you can see exactly what it looks like right there. That is what a rip current looks like. You can see the waves coming in, and you can physically see where that water goes back out to the ocean. So that is what a rip current is. Now, some people may ask, what is a riptide? Riptide, another word for rip current. They're the same thing, but really the technical term is a rip current. So rip current is what they're called by the National Weather Service. But some people call it riptides as well. But again, happens in shallow areas where there's a break in a sandbar. It happens near jetties, near piers, and you can see them. Next time you go to the ocean, I want you, as you're deciding where to swim, where to set up your chairs and your umbrellas, you can look in the ocean and see if you can see the rip currents. They're actually very visual. A lot of times you don't realize they're there. You're playing, you're swimming, get stuck in it. It does happen. Again, what you want to do is just swim parallel to the shore until it starts to let its grip, and then you swim onto the beach. Another thing to keep in mind, the bigger the waves, the stronger the action. I know a lot of times you go to the beach and it's really calm. They're related to the strength of the rip current. So if you go and there's huge waves and it's kind of violent and there's a yellow or red flag and you just feel like the water's really rough, that directly correlates to the strength of the rip current. So the rip current is going to be strong and rough if you get caught on it. The other hand, if it's a really serene beach, not a lot of waves, very calm water, not huge waves or strong waves, the rip current is going to be weaker as well. So that's something else to keep in mind. The stronger the waves, the stronger the rip current is going to be. So that is your lesson on rip currents. Let me see if we have any questions. I see everyone here watching. Hey, Wesley is watching from Ackworth. Hi, Adam. Hey, Heidi. Hi, Katie. Everyone, thanks for watching. So that is your lesson on rip currents. Tomorrow we are talking about... Let's see what tomorrow's lesson is. Tomorrow we're talking about weather instruments. So we're going to talk about different weather instruments, what they do, and then we're actually on Friday going to make our own weather instruments at home. So we're going to do some crafts on Friday. We'll see if I can get my kids involved in that one. Thank you so much for joining us for today's World of Weather. Again, make sure you tune in at 1:15 tomorrow for another lesson on weather instruments. And I'll see you at 4 o'clock on the CBS 46 News. We're talking about a system in the tropics. Right now has a 70% chance of development as we head towards the weekend. So lots to talk about. On top of that, upper 80s this weekend. It's going to get really hot. I'll see you starting at 4 o'clock this afternoon, then tomorrow at 1:15 here on Facebook and our streaming app for the World of Weather. Everyone have a great day.